Coming up on Talking Points, a new round of Russian airstrikes hit cities all over Ukraine. We have the latest on the anticipated fight for Donetsk and Luhansk.
Plus, COVID cases are up all over the country. Find out where officials have started reintroducing indoor mask mandates.
And Lieutenant Governor Benjamin resigns, how this affects Governor Kathy Hokul's re-election bid. Talking Point starts right now. Russian airstrikes killed 7 in the western Ukrainian city of Lviv. Welcome into Talking Points. I'm Moriah Humiston.
And I'm Teagan Brown. The west of the country has seen much less fighting and damage than the east. Russia is preparing for an invasion of the rest of the Donbass region. Officials are urging citizens to leave. Here with more is Talking Points breaking news analyst Chilekasi Adele. Chilekasi?
Teagan and Moriah, good evening. Russian forces conducted a missile attack on the city and other targets throughout Ukraine Monday. According to Reuters, the 7 killed are the first civilian casualties from Lviv. In the east, Ukrainian troops are still defending the city of Mariupol. Russian forces issued an order over the weekend. They told Ukrainian soldiers to put down their weapons. Multiple reports say the Ukrainians haven't shown signs of surrendering yet. Russia says it has almost taken the entire port city. The exception is a steel mill where a small amount of Ukrainian troops remain. Now, as both sides negotiate a solution, Ukraine's foreign minister said yesterday that the latest developments in Mariupol, quote, may be a red line. An advisor to Mariupol's mayor says Russian forces have started to issue passes for movement around areas that they control. He says soon passes will be required for anyone there who leaves home. Meanwhile, in the northeast, shelling in the city of Kharkiv continued over the weekend. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says that 18 people have been killed and over 100 have been wounded. In addition, 5 people were killed yesterday afternoon when Russian rockets hit the city. Zelensky says the Russians are expected to increase their attack on Kharkiv in Ukraine's east in the next few days.
Chilekasi, President Zelensky made a video address Sunday. What were some takeaways from his words?
Moriah, again, he says that Russian forces are prepping an offensive in Ukraine's east, and this is a little bit of what he had to say. Quote, they want to literally finish off and destroy Donbass, destroy everything that once gave glory to this industrial region. Just as the Russian troops are destroying Mariupol, they want to wipe out other cities and communities in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions. Now, in addition to that, Zelensky also says that the Russians are committing humanitarian violations in southern Ukraine. He says they're building, quote, torture chambers and blackmailing and starving people there.
All right, Chilekasi, thank you. The White House has continued to aid Ukraine in its war efforts against Russia. However, the president has yet to step foot in the country since the conflict began. Talking Points White House analyst Jacob Goldberg joins us to discuss the next steps from the administration and if we will see a Biden-Ukraine trip. So, Jacob, over the past few days, Ukrainian President Zelensky has said that Biden should make a trip to Ukraine. Is there any possibility that the president takes this trip?
Well, we've seen mixed responses from the White House, but Volodymyr Zelensky has made it clear that he thinks that Biden will come to Ukraine. He says it's necessary. As he's the leader of the United States, he should make the trip to the capital of Kyiv. Other world leaders have done it. Boris Johnson, the leader of the United Kingdom, and a bunch of other leaders from the European Union and NATO have already stepped foot in the capital. Of course, Joe Biden being the exclusion to that. And Jen Psaki said that Biden will not step foot inside of Ukraine. And although Biden says he's ready to, it's clear that they will not send him.
And Jacob, the U.S. just announced that they're going to send $800 million to Ukraine. What exactly is this money going towards?
Well, this money is going to go towards, military functions. It's going to be unmanned surface vehicles. It's going to be Mi-17 helicopters, and of course, other various weapons to help Ukraine fight against Russia, specifically in the Donbass region. There's been a lot of increased tensions in that region, and the package is built on the potential of large-scale combat in that region. And just a quote from Zelensky, he said, "There will never be enough aid. Enough is never possible." And I just think that's very interesting. He's obviously thankful for the United States for giving $800 million, but it just shows the severity of the situation, that nothing will ever be enough.
President Biden has recently made comments about Russia's actions in Ukraine. How will these comments impact him and influence his own actions?
Well, Biden has recently said that Putin is a dictator who, quote, commits genocide. And that word genocide is very important. This is a huge step up from just a few weeks ago when Biden was saying that Putin was committing war crimes. Now these war crimes have turned into genocide, and that word is huge because it makes it seem as though Biden needs to do more in Ukraine to stop what he is calling a genocide. And Jen Psaki touched upon why he's calling it genocide. Here's what she had to say.
Paul did a genocide yesterday, not once but twice actually, because as he said yesterday, it's becoming clearer and clearer each day that it is Putin's aim to wipe out the idea of being Ukrainian.
Jacob Goldberg, thank you so much. Coming up after the break, COVID cases are rising all over the country. How officials are responding. Stay with us.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dad?
Just 1 minute, okay?
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Welcome back to Talking Points. The highly contagious Omicron subvariant BA.2.12 is now the dominant variant in Onondaga County and New York State. Here to tell us how this strain has increased COVID rates in central New York and around the country is Talking Points healthcare analyst Julianna Distante. Julianna, where do current cases now stand in the county but also the state?
We're seeing an overall increase in cases in the county, and we can see that through Syracuse University. We can see that in central New York, and we can see that this BA.2.12 variant, is highly contagious and is coming and dominating the cases in central New York as well. We can see Syracuse University has changed their masking guidance effective tomorrow to the blue level, where we are going to see cases that are masks are required in academic places. Now we see active cases. We're seeing an increase that's pretty rapid, starting towards maybe the beginning, towards mid-April, and we can see all the cases are increasing and they're becoming more active and they're becoming more contagious. Now in terms of Onondaga County and central New York, we're also seeing these increases as well. We're seeing they're up in the county by 96% and up in the state by 190%, which is very, very high. And this is concerning as we're seeing more subvariants coming from the BA2 and that we're seeing mask mandates going up as well.
And now, we've seen these other variants before, but what makes this BA.2.12 variant different than all the ones before it?
Well, all of these subvariants that are coming from variants are going to be highly contagious and more transmissible than the previous. We're seeing that we have the Omicron variant coming BA1 and BA2 variants. Now we're seeing from BA2, BA.2.12, and there's a lot more variants that are coming from these variants, and they are going to be more transmissible and more contagious. Now we can see that deaths, however, have kind of plateaued. We're not seeing a severity in these variants and highly increased fatalities as well, which is also going to require more data and more research as well.
You mentioned that these variants are going to be more contagious and more transmissible. Is there a possibility that we're going to see masks being reinstated in the state?
Sure. Now, we saw last week Philadelphia reinstated its indoor mask mandate. We're seeing that New York could be moving the same way, if not has already. And we're seeing that universities are also making this step. We saw with Syracuse, University of Connecticut are also making these leaps. Columbia, Georgetown, and Johns Hopkins are also increasing their mask mandates and guidelines once more, given these current case standings across the nation.
All right, Julianna Distante, thank you. Several states are putting new abortion requirements in place. This is in anticipation of the Supreme Court's upcoming decision in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization.
Talking Point's legal analyst Spencer Kweskin joins us now. Spencer.
Thanks, guys. So in order to examine how the Supreme Court might rule in Dobbs v. Jackson, it's really helpful to examine the current precedent when it comes to abortion. And that precedent starts with Roe v. Wade. Justice Blackmun wrote the 7-2 decision in Roe v. Wade, and he focused a lot on the 14th Amendment, specifically this part of the 14th Amendment, which is the Due Process Clause. Now, he said that abortion falls under a general privacy protection in the Constitution, and that is protected by this part of the 14th Amendment. But that protection is not absolute in the case of abortion. So the court broke pregnancy down into 3 trimesters. In the first trimester, the states cannot regulate abortion at all, and it's completely up to the mother whether or not they want to get an abortion. In the second trimester, the states can implement some minor regulations, but these are mainly due to health. And in the third trimester, the states can have a near total regulation of abortion because they are protecting the potentiality of human life. So this was the precedent until Planned Parenthood v. Casey comes out in 1992. You have Justices Soter, O'Connor, and Kennedy writing a joint majority opinion. And they uphold the central tenet of Roe v. Wade, that abortion is protected under the 14th Amendment, but they overrule the trimester structure in favor of a viability framework. So viability is if the fetus can survive outside of the womb without the help of the mother. And so pre-viability, the states cannot regulate abortion, and post-viability, the states can regulate abortion. This leads us to the arguments happening right now in Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization. In this case, it is possible that the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade and Casey v. Planned Parenthood. And if the court does this, then there are several states with trigger laws on the book that would trigger in the case if Roe v. Wade is overturned. So these laws range in severity from you have Florida's 15-week ban and Mississippi's 15-week ban to Oklahoma's near total ban, which they recently enacted.
Now, Spencer, what are the main arguments that you're seeing in Dobbs?
Yeah, so you have Dobbs, which is the state of Mississippi, arguing that Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey improperly restrict the states in weighing the issues when it comes to abortion. And Dobbs and Mississippi is saying that the states are the best people to weigh the issues in this case. Jackson, on the other hand, says this is a currently constitutionally protected issue, and it's precedent in the court, and the court should uphold its precedent.
And Spencer, what is your prediction for this outcome?
Yeah, so there are basically 3 ways this case could go. The first way is that they uphold Roe v. Wade, and this is more likely than a lot of people think. You have Planned Parenthood v. Casey. It's a decision with 7 justices who are opposed to Roe v. Wade. You have 8 conservatives on that court, and they uphold Roe v. Wade anyway. So it's possible that the court upholds Roe v. Wade with the split with the 3 liberal justices. You have Roberts, and then you have Kavanaugh or Barrett, who is a wild card. The second way is they could move the line up or down. If it's moved down, expect a million challenges at 12 weeks, at 10 weeks, at 5 weeks. And the third option is that Roe v. Wade is completely overturned. And if Roe v. Wade is completely overturned, you'd have the states deciding whether or not they want to allow or restrict abortion.
All right, lots to come on this case. Spencer Kweskin, thank you. Inflation is currently at a 40-year record high here in the United States. Prices for food, energy, and housing continue to rise across the country, and this comes as President Biden's approval rating drops to just 33%. That's according to a recent Quinnipiac poll.
Here to break down how inflation could be a key for the 2022 midterm elections is our Talking Points congressional analyst Dominic Chiappone.
Moriah and Teagan, good evening. As the 2020 midterms are approaching, as Americans continue to deal with inflation, the real question becomes, how do both of things correlate? It's important for us to contextualize how inflation is specifically affecting key sectors, specifically food, housing, and energy prices. You can see right here at the far side that gas prices alone are already almost double what they were at the start of 2021. You see this with energy, used cars, and new cars, steady increases in all of those prices. But this isn't just the energy sector. sector, you could also see this with basic necessities for the everyday American. The average grocery right now is basically just under 10% higher than it was just several months ago. We are currently at a record inflation that we haven't seen since the 80s, and we're not only seeing this affect energy, but also different sectors of society for the everyday American. Now, the real question becomes, how will this affect the midterm election? And there's a couple historical precedents that we've seen in the past. The big one is, of course, in 1976, Democrats have all the momentum in the world after the post-Watergate situation. You can see here that they had over almost 300 seats in Congress, in the House of Representatives, and a supermajority in the Senate. Once the economy got worse, that number dropped for the House of Representatives all the way down to a slight majority, and in the Senate, they lost that majority entirely. We can also see this in recent memory, too, with 2004 to 2014 in this past decade. This chart shows the number of Democrats in both the House of Representatives and the Senate. As you can see, Republicans had a huge majority in 2004. As the election, or as the economy kind of crippled just a bit, including the 2008 recession, Democrats gained way more seats. But meanwhile, as the economy plummeted a bit right after that, and the economic growth slowed, Republicans gained more seats and Democrats lost more seats. So when you consider the historical precedent of this, what we could see is that as inflation increases and as economic growth stagnates or decreases, we see a dramatic increase in the amount of seats for the party not in power, but more importantly, a decrease in the amount of seats for the incumbent party in the House of Representatives and in the Senate.
So, Dominic, with inflation, is there a root cause behind this? And with that, if there is, how does this impact the midterms?
One of the biggest problems when covering inflation for experts is it's not been one single cause, but rather a series of factors that we've seen play out ever since 2020. The big one, of course, is the pandemic. We've seen the long-term side effects when it comes to shortages for labor, when it comes to supply chain issues. And when you combine that in total, it's really affected the economy entirely on almost all sectors. Additionally, due to the recent invasion of Ukraine by Russia, oil and gas prices have absolutely soared in recent months. But more important, there's been a big economic debate between conservatives and liberals. Liberals are arguing that it's actually the companies themselves not calling this inflation, but they're just raising prices overall. Republicans and conservatives are arguing that if you pump more money to the economy, it's basic economics. They are driving the value of the dollar much lower. But the bottom line is that we are seeing the highest level of inflation in 40 years, and this clearly will have a big impact on all parties involved when it comes to the upcoming 2022 midterms.
And you know, after seeing these consequences of inflation, is this going to be the #1 issue for Democrats and Republicans going on the campaign trail?
Absolutely. The bottom line is this. The incumbent party, the economy always matters for that individual. Think about it like this. The Supreme Court, those are lifelong appointments for the most part. President, 4 years. The only way to change anything at the federal level when it comes to government and giving a voice to the American people is through midterm elections and then elections every 2, 4, 6 years. This is an opportunity for Americans to change that. And what they're seeing right now is a big disapproval rating for President Biden, who's a Democrat, and we're seeing constant economic woes for the average everyday American citizen. They're going to use that as fuel for how they decide to vote in the upcoming 2022 midterms.
All right, Dominic, this is going to be an ongoing issue, and we'll have to see how this plays out as we go closer to the midterms. Thank you. Coming up on Talking Points, New York Lieutenant Governor Brian Benjamin resigns. Find out who is on the list to possibly replace him on the 2022 ticket. We'll be back in 90 seconds. Welcome back to Talking Points. Brian Benjamin resigned as New York's lieutenant governor after he was arrested for alleged campaign finance violations.
With more on the nature of his alleged crimes and possible replacements for Benjamin is Talking Points analyst Olivia Manicalco. Olivia?
Moriah and Teagan, good evening. Federal prosecutors say that while he was a state senator, Brian Benjamin conspired to direct $50,000 in state funds to a real estate developer's charity. In exchange, the developer allegedly gave thousands of dollars in illegal donations to his 2020 Senate campaign and failed 2021 bid for New York City Comptroller. Benjamin is charged with bribery, fraud, and falsification of records. He became Governor Hokul's lieutenant governor after Cuomo's resignation last August. In response to the news, Hokul said, quote, "I have accepted Brian Benjamin's resignation, effective immediately. While the legal process plays out, it is clear to both of us that he cannot continue to serve as lieutenant governor. New Yorkers deserve absolute confidence in their government, and I will continue working every day to deliver for them." Hokul has already faced backlash for hiring him in the first place. There have been long-standing concerns about potential campaign finance violations, but Benjamin pleaded not guilty to all charges and was released on a $250,000 bail. His travel is restricted and he is barred from returning to the state capitol in Albany. Lawyers for Benjamin say he will likely focus on trying to convince the court his actions were laudable, not criminal.
Now, Olivia, how could this resignation affect Governor Hokul's re-election campaign?
Now, it is definitely already starting to affect polling because as I mentioned earlier, he had already had some questions about finance violations in the past. In fact, it came out that he had some subpoenas issued about his financial past before she even hired him. She had no idea about these subpoenas, but they were issued, which is only proof that it was there, that it was a question for people. He said that he lied on background checks about government business with people. Hokul did not know about any of this. There's no evidence that she was involved at all, but it definitely doesn't look good for her, especially after the New York State budget just got dropped. She's actually focusing on trying to push that budget. And there also is a chance that he's going to still be on the primary ballot in June. And because of New York law, unless he moves out of state, then possibly he might not be on the budget on the ballot. And Hokul said she's trying to change the law and trying to get him off of it. And if she does that, then it would definitely help her in terms of polling. But as of now, he is still on the ballot, and this whole thing really does not look good for Hokul because she hired him less than a year ago.
And as you said, his name is not on the ballot right now, and currently there is no lieutenant governor. So who are some of the possible replacements that could replace Brian Benjamin?
Yes, Governor Hokul has said that they are still very early in the process. There's nobody that is of first place in the running or anything like that, but there are some names that have been floated. For example, State Senator Jamal Bailey and Assemblywoman Catalina Cruz from Bronx and the Queens, respectively. They were in the running with Benjamin originally, so they're definitely on the ballot. Also, former New York City mayoral candidate Catherine Garcia, who now serves as Hokul's state of operation. Her name has been floated around, although she has said she has a lot on her hands and she does not want to do it. So it is unclear exactly who it's going to be, but there are lots of names in the running.
Olivia, thank you. The city of Syracuse will officially get rid of the elevated portion of I-81. The highway runs directly through the middle of the city, and the city will replace it with a community grid. The $2.2 billion plan is set to start this year and is projected to be finished in 2028. With more details on the plan is Talking Points Syracuse analyst Tyler O'Neill. So Tyler, getting into this Interstate 81 plan, there were a lot of different and alternative plans on the table. Why did the city choose to settle with the community grid?
That's right. So after all this talk, after many years, they finally are going to unite the city by knocking down this elevated I-81 and make a community grid. So I know exactly what you're thinking is, where's this high-speed traffic going to go? So they're going to reroute this I-81 to a 481 interstate and rename that section also I-81. So construction is going to start on that this year at the north and south end of 481. Hokul said it's the only option to tear it down because it will unite the city that's once been divided for so long by this elevated part. Now, the roundabout that was originally supposed to be placed near the Martin Luther King Elementary School is going to be eliminated as well, and they're going to move it near Van Buren and the intersection of Almond Street. So this is to get away from the school because having that intersection like that or interstate like that there is just too dangerous for the children. So they're going to move that as well. So that's the updated plan for now.
And Tyler, how much money is the state putting aside for this project, and will they stick to this budget?
So the budget last year had $800,000 for this plan. Now there's an additional money this year to coming to a total of $2.2 billion. So since they've already put money into it last year and this year, it's expected to probably just go up in price as they've reworked this whole plan multiple times. And after all these other thoughts, it's probably going to go up once again, as the state usually does spend money that way.
Tyler O'Neill, thank you so much. Coming up on Talking Points, the feud between former President Donald Trump and New York Attorney General Letitia James reaches a new phase. The details next.
Anywhere, but the best place to start is in the forest.
I spy something beginning with S.
Snow?
No.
Snow-covered trees.
Nothing to do with snow.
Head outside to discover incredible animals and beautiful plants that come together to create an unforgettable adventure.
Wow.
So grab your loved ones.
Don't even.
And explore a world of possibilities.
Come on, this way.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find the closest forest or park to you.
The black truck? Hey, Christina from accounting.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, I used to date a girl named Christina.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then she dumped me for my best friend. You want to see some photos of them that I took?
I don't.
I thought we talked about this, buddy.
Buzzed and overshared again?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna call a car.
That's a smart idea.
So yeah, I know, that's why I did it.
Hey, you're gonna get back to the top of the mountain.
Does that mean I'm gonna get back with Christina?
No.
Oh.
No.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Talking Points, former President Donald Trump and New York State Attorney General Letitia James exchanged a series of press releases over the weekend.
In a statement released by his Save America PAC, Trump said, quote, "Happy Easter to failed gubernatorial candidate and racist Attorney General Letitia James. May she remain healthy despite the fact that she will continue to drive business out of New York while at the same time keeping crime, death, and destruction in New York," end quote.
And James responded by saying, quote, "This Attorney General will not be bullied or intimidated by the former president." Now, Teagan and Chilekasi, this is not the first time we've seen the Attorney General and the former president go head-to-head, whether it's in press releases or just briefings in general.
I mean, most recently, Letitia James asked a New York judge to fine Donald Trump $10,000 per day until he gave his documents pertaining to her investigations into his business.
You know, Teagan, Moriah, I think this is, as we go down the line, we've got the 2024 presidential election, and we've got the midterms right around the corner, too. Some big races when it comes to the governor, when it comes to the lieutenant governor. And Letitia James, if she were able to make this prosecution on Donald Trump, it'd probably be very good for her politically as well.
And we're seeing that alongside of that with the former President Donald Trump. He's also starting to make some more appearances talking politically, not announcing a 2024 run yet, but he has appeared on many media outlets and has been releasing these public political statements.
Absolutely, and he's still continuing to hold these rally-type events. He's still talking about candidates that are running in these midterms and even endorsing some of them.
Yeah, and you're seeing it, like I just said, you know, this is probably a microcosm of what's going on in terms of our society, in terms of the political nature of almost everything, right? So the outcome of this investigation, whatever it turns to, is going to end up having good or bad implications for either candidate here.
And that's all the time we have for you on Talking Points. I'm Moriah Humiston. She's Teagan Brown. Have a great night, Syracuse.